Hi friends, welcome to our English learning series. This story is called A Short Plane Ride, and it's perfect for practicing your reading, understanding feelings, and learning everyday English. Whether you're a beginner or just looking to enjoy a simple and emotional story, you're in the right place. Let's get started. It was Nora's first time on an airplane. She stood in line at gate 17, holding her small suitcase with both hands. Her fingers were cold, even though it was warm inside the airport. Around her, people spoke in many languages. Some laughed, some whispered, and some looked tired. But Nora stayed quiet. She was 16. Just last week, she had said goodbye to her grandma, who raised her since she was a baby. Now, she was flying to a new country to live with her mother, someone she hadn't seen in almost 10 years. Her stomach felt tight, not because of hunger, but because of worry. Boarding Group C, the voice from the speaker called. That was her group. She showed her ticket to the flight attendant and walked down the long tunnel. Her legs felt like jelly. When she stepped onto the plane, her eyes grew wide. Everything was shiny and new. The seats were blue and neat. People were placing bags above their heads and talking softly. Nora found her seat, 12A, the window seat. She sat down and looked out. She saw the runway and a worker in an orange vest guiding a cart of luggage. Behind her, two children were arguing over a toy. In the row beside her, an old man coughed. But in her little space, Nora stayed still and quiet. Just then, a woman sat down in the aisle seat 12C. She had short curly hair, big glasses, and wore a sunflower pin on her jacket. "Hi there," the woman said warmly. "First flight?" Nora hesitated, then nodded. The woman smiled. "I thought so. You look a little like I did during my first flight, terrified." Nora let out a small laugh. It felt strange. She hadn't laughed all week. "I'm Carla," the woman said, holding out her hand. "Nora," she said softly, shaking it. "Well, Nora," Carla said, "don't worry. It's just a short plane ride." Carla reached into her bag and pulled out a small paper bag. "Ginger candy. Helps with nerves? Want one?" Nora took it, surprised by the kindness. The plane doors closed with a beep. The captain's voice came over the speaker, talking about safety and weather. Nora only heard some of it. Her hands were tight on the armrest. As the plane moved slowly onto the runway, Carla leaned over. "Best part's coming. The takeoff. It feels like flying into a dream." Nora looked out the window as the plane sped up. The ground shook, and then, suddenly it didn't. The city below became smaller and smaller. Nora gasped. The clouds were close now. She saw sunlight sparkle on the airplane's wing. Carla smiled. "See? Not so bad." And for the first time that day, Nora felt a little lighter. She was still afraid, still unsure, but also just a tiny bit hopeful. The plane floated high above the clouds now. Outside Nora's window, the world looked soft and white, like a blanket made of light. She pressed her forehead to the cool glass, trying to calm her thoughts. It had been a hard year. After Grandma got sick, everything changed. Nora had spent months going between school and the hospital, missing homework and birthdays. Then, one quiet night, her grandma's hands stopped moving. Nora had held them for hours, not wanting to let go. Now, she was on a plane to live with her Madeira mother, who had left when Nora was just a toddler. They had talked sometimes, through video calls. Her mother always looked busy wearing makeup, talking fast, and smiling like everything was perfect. Nora didn't know what to expect. Carla was reading a book beside her. She wore big purple glasses and had a soft way of turning each page, like she didn't want to wake the paper. "Are you okay?" Carla asked, noticing Nora had stopped watching the clouds. Nora nodded slowly. "Just thinking." Carla closed her book. "Thinking is allowed, especially when you're flying through the sky." Nora smiled faintly. She liked that thinking is allowed. "Where are you flying to?" Nora asked. Carla raised an eyebrow. "Me? Oh, just a small city where my daughter lives. She just had her first baby, my first grandchild." "That's nice," Nora said. "What's the baby's name?" "Ellie." Carla said, her face softening. She has the tiniest hands. I saw her in pictures. I'm going to meet her for the first time today. Something about that made Nora feel warm. This woman beside her wasn't just a passenger. She was someone's mother, someone's grandma, someone who gave out ginger candy to nervous girls. Do you miss your daughter? Nora asked. Every single day, Carla said. But I'm lucky. We write letters. Real ones. With stamps. Nora laughed. That's so old-fashioned. Maybe, Carla said, winking. But it makes the words feel heavier, like they matter more. The plane rocked gently. A soft chime rang overhead, and a flight attendant came down the aisle with a cart. Would you like something to drink? She asked with a kind smile. Apple juice, please, Nora said. Make it 2, Carla added. The drinks came in small plastic cups. Nora took a slow sip. It tasted sweet and familiar, like the juice her grandma used to buy. For a moment, they both sat quietly. Then Carla said, You know, this flight may be short, but it's still a journey. Sometimes, big changes come in small packages. Nora looked at her. I mean it, Carla continued. A 2-hour flight can change a life, just like a letter, or a smile, or even one brave decision. Nora felt her throat tighten. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Outside, the sun was starting to dip, casting golden light over the clouds. The sky looked like a painting. Tell me something about where you're going, Carla said gently. Nora paused. I'm going to live with my mom. I haven't seen her in a long time. Are you nervous? Nora nodded. Yes, very. That's okay, Carla said. Sometimes nervous means something important is happening. The plane dipped a little. A voice came on the speaker. We'll be beginning our descent shortly. Please make sure your seatbelt is fastened. Carla smiled. Almost there. Nora looked out the window again. The clouds were thinning, and pieces of the earth began to appear: roads, houses, tiny cars. The world was coming back into view. And inside her, something else was starting to appear too. Maybe not joy. Not yet, but something close. Hope. The plane dipped lower. Nora could see tiny buildings, toy-like cars, and green patches of trees below. It was strange. Just 2 hours ago, the airport felt like the end of her old life. Now, she was floating into something completely new. Are you ready? Carla asked, adjusting her seatbelt. Nora didn't know how to answer. I think so, she said. Kind of. Carla gave her a kind look. You don't need to be ready. You just need to be there. The plane shook a little as the wheels dropped with a loud clunk. Nora jumped in her seat. Carla chuckled. That's just the landing gear. You'll hear a few more noises. All part of the ride. Nora gripped the armrest again, her heart beating faster. She took a deep breath, like Grandma taught her during storms. The captain's voice came on. Flight attendants, please prepare for landing. Nora's ears started to pop. She opened her mouth wide, just like the cartoon in the safety guide suggested. Carla did the same, exaggerating it like a silly face, and Nora giggled. Outside the window, the houses were growing bigger. She could see trees swaying in the wind, and a red playground with no kids on it. The plane tilted slightly, then leveled. The ground rushed closer and closer. Then bump, bump, roll. They were on the ground. The tires made a soft roar as the plane slowed. Nora felt it in her chest, like a drumbeat. The plane rolled along the runway, then came to a stop. She had done it. She had flown. We made it, Carla whispered, as if they had just landed on the moon. The other passengers began to move, unbuckling seatbelts, reaching for bags, stretching arms. Nora stayed still for a moment, just breathing. A tear rolled down her cheek. She didn't even know why. Carla handed her a tissue without a word. Thanks, Nora said quietly, dabbing her eyes. They stood together, waiting for the rows ahead to clear. Outside the window, Nora could see the airport. It looked different from the one she left, brighter, somehow, full of possibility. What's the first thing you'll do when you see your mom? Carla asked gently. Nora shrugged. I don't know. I haven't thought that far. Well, Carla said, maybe start with a hello. Nora gave a tiny smile. Yeah, a hello sounds good. The line moved forward. They stepped into the narrow aisle. Hello, her mother said again, this time softer. Her voice was careful, like she didn't want to scare Nora away. Nora looked down at her shoes. She didn't know what to say back. So many words were inside her, but none came out. Carla gently touched Nora's shoulder. I'll be going now, sweet girl. You're braver than you think. She smiled one last time and walked away into the crowd. Nora turned to her mother again. Hi, she whispered. Her mother stepped forward, not too fast, just one step. Then she opened her arms, unsure, as if she was waiting for permission. Nora stood still. Then, slowly, she walked forward. Her mother wrapped her in a warm, careful hug. It was gentle, like holding something fragile. I missed you, her mother whispered. Her voice shook a little. Nora didn't answer. Not yet. But she didn't pull away either. They stood there for a moment, holding the past and the present in a quiet airport hug. Finally, her mother stepped back. You must be tired. Let's go home. Home. The word didn't feel real yet, but Nora followed her out of the airport anyway. Outside, the wind was cool. A line of taxis waited at the curb. Her mother led her to a small silver car. The back seat had a colorful pillow and a box of tissues. Nora sat down and buckled in. The city around them was new. Tall buildings, bright signs, buses, bikes, and people walking fast. Her mother drove carefully, glancing at Nora now and then. Do you want music? She asked. Nora shrugged. Okay. Her mother pressed a button, and soft piano music filled the car. It reminded Nora of rainy days and quiet afternoons. They didn't talk much on the way. Just small things. Are you hungry? A little. There's soup at home. Okay. Her mother's apartment was on the third floor of a building with green vines growing near the door. Inside, the walls were painted light yellow. It smelled like cinnamon and clean laundry. This is your room, her mother said, opening a door. The room was small but cozy. A bed with a blue blanket, a desk, a lamp shaped like a moon. A photo frame sat on the shelf, but the picture inside was empty. I thought maybe you could choose a photo to put in there, her mother said. Nora placed her suitcase on the bed. Thanks, she said quietly. Her mother stood in the doorway, unsure what to do next. I'll let you settle in. Soup will be ready soon. Then she left, closing the door gently behind her. Nora sat on the bed. She looked around the room. It didn't feel like hers yet, but it didn't feel bad either, just unfamiliar. She opened her suitcase and took out a small picture of Grandma. It was a little bent at the corner. She placed it on the desk beside the moon lamp. Then she sat by the window and looked out at the city. The sky was turning orange, and the buildings glowed in the soft evening light. She still felt unsure, still afraid. But somewhere deep inside, something had shifted. Not everything had to be perfect. Not everything had to be easy. But maybe, just maybe, she could start again. The smell of soup filled the apartment. It wrapped around Nora like a blanket. She stayed in her room a little longer, looking at Grandma's picture. Then, slowly, she walked to the kitchen. Her mother was stirring a pot on the stove. She wore a soft gray sweater and looked up with a smile when Nora entered. Hi, she said. I made lentil soup. I wasn't sure what you liked. Nora nodded. Soup is good. They sat at a small table with 2 bowls, 2 spoons, and a basket of bread between them. The steam from the soup rose gently, warming the air. Nora took a bite. It was hot, but the taste was comforting, simple and full. Do you cook a lot? Nora asked. Every weekend, her mother said. It helps me think. I'm not great at talking, but cooking, I can do that. Nora looked down at her bowl. Grandma used to make vegetable soup when I was sick. Her mother's face softened. She always knew what to do. There was a quiet pause. I wish I had written more, her mother said. Or called. I should have been better at that. Nora didn't answer. She didn't know what to say. I wasn't ready to be a mom when you were born, her mother continued. Her voice trembled. But I never stopped thinking about you, not once. Nora stirred her soup. Sometimes, she said slowly, I was really mad. I thought maybe you forgot about me. Her mother closed her eyes. I'm so sorry, Nora. I didn't forget. I just didn't know how to fix everything. Nora watched the way her mother's hands shook just a little. She was trying. She really was. I think Grandma forgave you, Nora said. Tears welled in her mother's eyes. She wiped them with the sleeve of her sweater. Thank you for saying that, she whispered. After dinner, they washed dishes together. Nora dried each plate with a clean towel. The small sound of water and clinking dishes filled the space between them. Later, they sat on the couch. Her mother showed Nora old photo albums pictures of a younger her, holding baby Nora in a hospital room, smiling through tired eyes. She had your cheeks, her mother said, pointing to Grandma in a photo. I remember that sweater, Nora said. She wore it every winter. She gave it to me once, her mother said. But I never wore it. I think I felt too far away. There was silence again. But this time, it didn't feel heavy. It felt real. That night, as Nora lay in bed under the blue blanket, she looked up at the ceiling and let her thoughts drift. So much had happened in one day. Flying, meeting her mother, saying hello to a new kind of life. She didn't know what tomorrow would be like. She still felt unsure, still missed Grandma, still had questions. But for the first time in a long while, she didn't feel alone. And that was something. The morning light came softly through the window, painting the walls in pale gold. Nora woke up slowly, wrapped in the blue blanket. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she remembered. The plane, the soup, the photo, albums and her mother's quiet hello. She sat up and looked around the room. It still didn't feel fully hers, but something had changed. It felt less like a stranger's space, and more like a place she could learn to belong. She got dressed and brushed her hair. Grandma's picture smiled back from the desk. In the kitchen, her mother was already making tea. Good morning, she said, pouring hot water into 2 cups. Morning, Nora replied. She took the cup carefully. It smelled like mint. They sat together at the small table again. There's a bookstore nearby, her mother said. It has a quiet cafe. Would you like to go? Nora nodded. Yes, I think I'd like that. So they walked together. The city was waking up, cars honked gently. People carried coffee. Birds danced on telephone wires. Nora stayed close beside her mother. Not touching, but near. The bookstore had tall shelves and soft music playing. The cafe smelled like cinnamon and old paper. Her mother ordered 2 hot chocolates and led them to a small table near the window. I used to come here when I missed you, she said quietly. I'd read letters I never sent. Nora looked out at the street. Do you still have them? Her mother nodded. Every single one. I'd like to read them. Someday. Whenever you're ready. They sat in silence again. But this time, it felt peaceful. Safe. After their drinks, they wandered through the shelves. Nora picked out a small English storybook one with drawings and easy words. She thought it might help her practice reading out loud again. Her mother smiled and added a notebook and pen. For your own stories, she said. On the way home, they stopped at a corner shop for fruit. Her mother let Nora choose. She picked oranges, Grandma's favorite. That night, Nora wrote in the notebook. Just a little. Today, I woke up in a new life. It's quiet here, but warm. I still miss Grandma, but I think she'd be proud of me. I'm learning to say hello again. I'm learning to stay. She closed the notebook and smiled. She didn't know what would happen tomorrow or the next day, but she knew this. It started with one small plane ride and one small step. YouTube-style closing for English learners. Hi friends. Thank you so much for joining us on a short plane ride, a cozy English learning story. We hope Nora's journey helped you feel a little braver and more connected, just like learning a new language can. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the bell sorcha so you never miss another heartwarming English story. Every chapter brings you closer to confidence, comfort, and connection in English. Keep reading, keep listening, and most of all, don't be afraid to try. Thanks for learning with us, and we'll see you in the next story. Free.